listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me, non-judgmental talk about infidelity with Dr. Marie Murphy. If you're looking for new perspectives on complicated relationship issues, you've come to the right place.
Days go by, they're crawling by.
Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Marie Murphy. This podcast is all about expanding the conversation around infidelity. I'm a relationship coach, and I specialize in helping people who are engaging in some form of infidelity deal with their feelings, clarify what they want, and make decisions about what they're going to do. I offer shame-free, blame-free, non-judgmental relationship coaching, and you can talk to me about the things that seem too messy or weird or stigmatized to share with your best friend or your spouse or even your therapist. To learn more about my work or to schedule an introductory coaching session with me, go to my website, mariemurphyphd.com. Today, I am going to talk about parenting and divorce with Abigail Wald of motherflippingawesome.com. Abigail's question for you is, are you ready to master this parenting gig? Because you aren't getting fired anytime soon. Hailed as a badass, stealthy sparkle wizard by her clients, Abigail is your personal concierge-style parent advocate, helping you master the human art form of raising children into kind, capable little change makers. Her message to parents: your work matters. You matter. You may have goldfish crumbs in your hair, but you have the ability to change the world. After all, you are literally holding the next generation in your arms. Grab Abigail's Mother Flipping Awesome app on the App Store to get inspired for the work you do every day with your kids. Hi, Abigail. It's so great to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Marie. I am so excited to be here. I love the conversations you have with people. So I am very honored to sit down and have an honest, judgment-free, blame-free, shame-free conversation with you about life and parenting.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Yay. So, one of the reasons why for everyone who's listening, Abigail is a second-time guest on this show. We recorded another episode, I want to say in November of last year, so you can look that up too. And the reason why I invited Abigail back is because when I work with clients who are engaging in infidelity and are married and have children, they often have concerns about what might happen to their kids if they were to decide to get divorced. And saying that people have concerns about this is kind of an understatement. Some people are terrified of what will happen with their kids and with their relationship with their kids if they get divorced. And everyone's fears are a little different, but today I'm going to ask Abigail for her take on 3 of the main fears my clients express about what might happen with their children and the relationship with their children if they get divorced. Yeah. And so fear number 1 is, it's a big one. And I have a take on this one as a sociologist who used to study families and teach a families and society class and look at a lot of research about these things. And of course, I have a take on this as a coach, but I want Abigail's take as a parenting expert. And this fear is divorce is unequivocally bad for kids. So if I get divorced, I'll be harming my children. Your thoughts, Abigail?
I mean, my thoughts are that depends on the kind of divorce you have, and that depends on the kind of marriage you have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I think, first of all, it's not like marriage is great and divorce sucks.
Right.
Okay. Like that, we just have to be real about that. Sometimes marriages suck, right? Yeah. Sometimes divorce can be great.
Yeah.
There is no question that divorce is a massive thing to go through.
Sure.
But it doesn't have to be ultimately terrible. It doesn't have to be terrifying. Now, the problem is, of course, that there's this little bit of a conundrum in that, well, if you could get divorced really well together, you probably won't get divorced because you'll probably be able to stay married together really well. Do you know what I mean?
So yeah, but I do know a few exceptions to that.
There are,
and I'm sure
exceptions.
You do too. Yeah.
Right. Like if I find that the exceptions occur when people are really just like really good people who really just love each other, but they don't feel like their life paths are maybe the same, or they have very different sexual appetites or very different understandings of what constitutes a marriage.
Yep.
Right? What they're looking for in a partner, but there's no anger towards the other person.
Yeah.
Right? What do you find?
Yeah, I find that too. And the other common thing that I think is the case with folks who get divorced well, shall we say, is that both parties are reasonably willing to take responsibility for their own shit.
Yeah. Yes. Which again is one of the necessary things to being able to stay married.
Sure. That
Right?
too. But then it comes down to preferences. Like you can take responsibility for your own shit and still not want to be married to your spouse.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing, like divorce is unequivocally bad for kids. No. I mean, we've already said no,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If I get divorced, I'll be harming my children. Well, here's the deal. Every decision you make is going to have an effect on your children. Like where you live, what school, what skills you're building or not building, what you're offering to them, what happens to them. And none of those effects are set in stone, because you could like hand somebody an experience, but how they experience that experience is an entirely different thing. And we all know this. Like sometimes we give our kids this thing that is supposed to be amazing, and they experience it completely traumatically.
Yeah. Oh, for
And they're
sure.
like,
Yeah.
wait a second, I just did that nice thing. What? Yeah. Right? So let's be real about the fact that one of the problems of parenting is what we're creating and handing to our kid, and the way our kid is going to metabolize that experience are not really the same.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's a big thing we have to come to understand is it's not just what happens, it's actually how you're plating it, how you're serving it, what you're serving it with, and how your child's going to be able to digest it, so to speak. So that becomes like, that's the sort of art that I deal with parents, is like to explain, you're not just throwing an experience at your children, you're plating it. You're a chef. You're literally creating an experience around the experience. You can do that whether it's divorce or marriage or anything. And let's talk about all the things you're not going to plan. Like you're not going to plan the day that, your kid's best friend stops talking to them.
Right.
You're not going to plan the day they fall out of a tree and break their thigh. You're not going to plan the day they get cut from the team. You're not going to plan the day they win, being school president. Like you're not going to plan all the things that happen right or wrong that are also going to have huge effects on them. So there's a little bit of hubris that we have,
Yeah.
And like to bring it up and go like, oh, right. Like I'm not actually totally in charge of everything that happens to them. And not to say like, so fuck it, I'll just get divorced and like, no big deal. Like I don't give a shit. Right. Like pay attention. And it might blow some stuff up, and you've got to pick that stuff up.
Yep.
And it's your job to I would say, rather than get divorced poorly or not, not to get divorced or not, get divorced well. That's your responsibility. Right.
I love that. I want to pick out two things that you said that I really liked. One is simply the point that, like marriage isn't unequivocally good and divorce isn't unequivocally bad.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of marriages are not ideal for anyone involved, and the family, experience under the auspices of that marriage can be kind of awful. And one thing I want to say is that a lot of research on, like bad outcomes for children of divorce is predicated on the normative assumption that marriage is unequivocally good. But that's just not true. That's just not empirically true. Now, the other thing that I love that you said, I love metaphors, and I love this, like how you plate the divorce metaphor. Like if you're going to serve your kids dinner, it's not like you just take food out of the refrigerator and throw it at them. You like cook it, you prepare it, and you serve it to them. And if you want them to eat vegetables that they don't like, you say like, okay, this is going to taste yummy, or like, this is going to make you big and strong, or whatever. And I think that extends really well to divorce. It's like, okay, this is happening. We're going to talk about this and what it means.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, you have to make space, because here's the deal. Like the moment you have children, your life just as you and your partner is over.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean there aren't little subsets where that's still it's like a Venn diagram. Like, yeah, there's a circle that's just you, and there's a circle that's you and your partner.
Yeah.
But now there's also a circle that's all of you. And you can't get away from that. Like, that's just a reality. And again, divorcing doesn't change that equation unless you're actually going to divorce yourself from your role as a parent, right? Like, I refuse to parent, by the way, which also doesn't negate that equation, because like something being erased is not the same thing as something not having existed at all, right? Because now we're just holding the negative space of that thing that should have been there, which is a huge weight.
Right.
So actually, the moment you have a child, the idea of any part of your life not having an effect on that child is over. Yeah. Like, and I think that we need to, we try to like avoid that. I mean, I'm sorry to put it so front and center, but it's like, I think it is important to just be super honest about it and say everything you do is going to matter to somebody else now. Just like when you're married, everything you do is going to matter to somebody else. Now, some of the things are so small. It doesn't matter if you ate tofu or chicken today. It doesn't matter your spouse. Okay. But like, if you're like, ooh, I want to pick up and like start doing this art internship. And by the way, it's in Toulouse. Like, that's going to matter. Doesn't mean you can't do it. Just because like you're married and you have kids, you can still do it, but it's going to matter, right? Sure. It's going to affect other people.
Right.
And I think this is the thing. And I see this in children too. I believe, especially highly sensitive people, which again are sometimes the people who wind up in these kinds of situations. Yes.
When you say these kinds of situations, what do you mean?
Situations where they're really like raking themselves over the coals about a decision, like, oh my God, I can feel what other people feel. I can feel what I feel like. They're just highly sensitive. They're not the kind of people who are like, I'll just move and figure it out. These are the people who like think and think and think, torture themselves, torture the people they love, not meaningfully, right?
Sure.
And so highly sensitive people, which is, that's my population of people that I work with. They're all strong-willed, highly sensitive, the parents or the kids or both. And highly sensitive people have sometimes this existential dread of existing.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Where it's like, hey man, I'm really glad that I'm here having a life, but like, I don't want to at all deal with the fact that my life might have some weight on anybody else, or like, if I sit on the seat, you can't sit on the seat. Like, that's way too painful for me. So like, I can't deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. And I talk about this kind of stuff with people all the time. And what I always say is that we are always going to be the occasion for other people's experiences. When we live in an interdependent world, especially when we're in close relationships with other people, we will be the occasion for their joy and their sorrow and their pain and their anger. But we do not unilaterally cause their feelings. Their thoughts about us create their feelings. We don't have like the full power to control someone else's experience, nor do we have the full responsibility to manage someone else's experience.
Yes. And if people don't understand the skills that are necessary to both hear yourself and honor your own needs, hear someone else's needs, but not take on too much responsibility, but not take on too little.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
It's a very tricky thing. I mean, this is what adulting is, essentially. And, I work with parents of kids who they don't have, the kids don't have that ability. These are the kids who can't say, I'm sorry, who just, they break a toy. And then instead of saying, I'm sorry, they now hurl it into the fireplace, because it's too painful to admit I've done something.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think at the end of the day, we grown-ups feel this feeling too sometimes.
Yeah. All the time.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh man, I did something and it caused something. And I'm responsible, but not entirely. But wow. Can I just stop existing?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, what I always say is like there are 1,020,000 opportunities to feel discomfort every day of, being alive and being human. And when we don't know how to tolerate that, when we don't know how to make sense of that, it's hard. And we respond in ways that only exacerbate our discomfort and, probably that of those around us.
Yeah, I had a beautiful moment with my son last night. So my son, my oldest son, when he gets anxiety about something, he gets really mean. It's not a great evolutionary tactic, by the way. It's like you're kind of just like, forget it. I'll just leave you here. But somehow evolution also causes this deep, unbelievable love where I'm like, I will still pick you up while you're biting me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, we had to get evacuated last night because of the fire danger in Northern California. And so there was this evacuation and he was, of course, being his lovely self while we were trying to evacuate.
And by that, can you give us a hint as to what his lovely self looks like?
It's like impossible to describe, but every parent knows what it's like. You can't move them. Like he's just sitting there staring at me, immovable. And I'm like, can you get your backpack? Why?
Oh!
Because we're evacuating. Why? Because there's a fire and it's close. Well, that's stupid. It is stupid. Sure. I need you to leave. Well, I'm not going. Okay. Where's your backpack? I don't know. Right.
Right.
Okay.
Awesome.
This is great.
Yeah.
So, but I also know he's in anxiety shutdown, right?
Yeah.
I get it. And so anyway, so I've taught him over the time to have some awareness about himself. So we go out to dinner and again, he's just horrible. But the three of us are just, we get it. We know what's going on, But I also, as his mother, feel this responsibility to teach him coping skills because not everybody is going to be able to deal with this. So halfway through dinner, he looks at me and he just suddenly, it's the first time he locks eyes with me. And he locks eyes and he grabs me by the neck and he goes, I just want you to know I'm having a really hard time right now. I understand that I'm being absolutely impossible. I know that this is how I process through anxiety. I understand this isn't beneficial, but I just want you to know that my brain is really melting down and I don't know how to deal with what's happening around me right now.
Wow.
So I will be better in a moment, but I'd like permission, please, to just check out for another 15 minutes and then I'll be able to get myself together. And I was like, you're an amazing human being.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And he just checked out for 15 minutes, right? Played a video game on his phone in the middle of dinner, which I normally would say no to. And then he put it down and he was completely present and amazing for the rest of the night.
Wow.
And that's the kind of thing that we're talking about here. When we're talking about you're still going to have the problem,
right?
But how you metabolize the problem makes a huge difference.
Right. So let's look at this specifically, what, and I, speaking in general terms here, of course, what's a not so great way to plate divorce that's not going to lead to a great metabolization of the situation versus a way to plate divorce and present it so that there are other options, that it doesn't have to be a terrible thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first thing we have to do is remember that everybody's the hero of their own story.
Mm-hmm.
So when you come to a child to talk about divorce, I think it's important to talk to a child first about their experience of how things currently are.
Yeah.
Right? So instead of mommy and I have decided, or daddy and I have decided, or there's a lot of things going on, I need to tell you this thing from up high, is to say, talk to me about how things have been for you. What do you notice?
That.
What's been happening in your world? What's it like? Yeah. Here's how daddy's been feeling. Here's how mommy's been feeling. Or, here's how mom and mom have been feeling. Here's how dad and dad have been feeling. Right.
Yeah.
And, this is what we're thinking. And I want to know, how would that affect you? What would you need for that? Well, we're talking about it and we're going to take into account what you're saying. But even if you want us to stay together, we're not sure that that's something that we can do because we actually also want to stay together. And right now, we're not sure that that is the right choice.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to take some time and think about it. And what you want in all of this matters too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, I think if you want us to stay together or you want to stay in this house or that house, over time we can look at those things and where we might not be able to like get you the exact version of the answer you want. Like we might not be able to stay in this house altogether.
Yeah.
But we could stay in 2 houses you love equally. Or we could stay in, make sure we get enough time still going here. Or your friends all live in this neighborhood. So we could choose to get another house or another place in this neighborhood to stay close to everybody. Or, there are things that we'll be able to really keep in mind as we make this transition that can hopefully help. And you might have a lot of really big feelings. And I want you to know we're here for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And if one of the parents is open to the big feelings and the other isn't, I want you to know maybe parent A is not able to listen as well because they're really hurting right now, but I am. And if you want, there are other people, like I know your softball coach is really close to you and this person and that person and this person, and who are some friends you could talk to. And are you supported? Do you have what you need? And as much as things are changing, let's name 10 things right now that stay the same.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That's so good. I love that. And I love also emphasizing that, like, look, we care about your needs and what you want. We may not be able to deliver in exactly the way that you want those things, but we will create the essence of that to the best of our ability.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's the other thing that I always tell people, like kids know about divorce these days.
Oh yeah.
It's not uncommon. And, I often
certainly in the US, right?
Right.
It is not some weird subject.
Right. Right. And often I see parents like holding off on talking about it with their kids and things within the marriage have been a bit amiss for a long time. And they think, oh, when should I tell the kids? And I often think to myself, like, your kids already know.
Oh, yeah.
They know what's going on. They're just waiting for you to rip the Band-Aid off and have 100%. The conversation.
100%.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would say, I think the most damaging ones are where the kids have been completely left out because the parents really have been putting on a complete front.
Mm-hmm.
And then it feels like a real bait and switch.
Yeah. I
actually think that's more damaging. And more confusing for the child because there's no context.
Sure. Yeah. And, this harkens back to something that you said on our other podcast interview. You said, we're all just people walking the earth together or something to that effect. Like, yeah, the child may be the younger party and the parent may be the older and wiser party, but we're just humans walking the earth together.
Yeah.
Right. And we got to treat each other as such, not like, kids are a different species until they hit a certain age, right?
Yeah. And I think that we can also say, like, I have made mistakes because our child, might wind up blaming us or blaming the other partner.
Ooh, this is a good segue. Can I interject? Yeah, so common fear number 2 that I hear is, if my kids find out that my infidelity was the reason for the divorce, they will hate me for cheating on their other parent. They will hate me for causing the divorce.
They may for a bit.
Yeah.
They may be mad.
Yeah.
And, on some level, I'm going to say, maybe you should be able to explain that. Like on a real level without judgment.
Yeah.
You made a big choice. Yeah. And that big choice had stuff that happened downriver because of your choice.
Yep.
And that goes back to what we said before, which is it's not a matter of judgment. It's a matter of genuine responsibility. So it's not like you're wrong or you're bad. It's just like, wow, I did turn that boat to the right. And that means all those people who were on the left didn't get their, life jackets delivered, like whatever, you know what I mean? Like whatever the situation is. It's like, I have to accept that I made a choice. And I think it's not so much like, oh God, I can't explain it to my kids. My kids won't understand it. It's like, if you understand it, you can explain it to your kids.
Exactly.
And
Agree.
if you can't explain it to your kids, it's because you can't explain it to yourself.
Agree. Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. And I totally agree with what you're saying about, there are consequences to our actions. But that doesn't mean we don't have to think about consequences in the loaded, negative, judgy sense. It's just that whenever we do anything, there are results of our actions. And that's okay. Like, even if it isn't like, we stayed in the family that had the 2.4 kids and the white picket fence and the dog. And like, we didn't remain that version of a family forever, but that doesn't have to be bad, even if the transition was sad for a while.
Yes.
Difficult for a while. That
Yes.
doesn't mean it's bad or wrong.
Yes. And I think getting us out of what you're talking about, this sort of like mentality of like things are either good or they're bad.
Yeah.
Like, no, they're not. That's such bullshit. Right?
I know. It's so unhelpful.
It's so unhelpful.
Yeah.
Things are not good or bad. Things are like good, and then they're bad, and then they're good, and then they're bad, and then they're terrible. And then you turn that into something amazing.
Yeah.
And, I was talking with, I was actually talking with my oldest son about another thing. He's in high school. So we're doing like a lot of like character building these days, which is why I was so excited about his amazing choice there at dinner. I just thought that was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's an example of somebody kind of like acting shitty, owning it, and then turning it around, you know, like, and that's an amazing thing for a kid to be able to do, right?
It's an amazing thing for an adult to be able to do too. Yeah.
But here's the thing is like, I was talking with my older son also about something about, these sort of this ascension ladder of choice, right? And I was like drawing this picture for him about, when you were younger, we would choose like the best choice for you. And then you would fight us on it tooth and nail because you're strong-willed and you don't, if I'm like, oh, you love vanilla ice cream, here's vanilla ice cream, you'd be like, why didn't you get me chocolate? You know what I mean? Like, that's just his nature. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, so I would choose the best choice. You would fight me on it. Now I choose, and you would actually refuse. Now, I'll choose the best choice for you sometimes, and you don't refuse, but you still make it difficult. And then, now you're also moving into this place where you're able to choose the best choice for you, which is not always the easiest choice. It's the best choice. And your ability to see that difference is really part of your maturity now. And then at some point, you're going to choose the best choice for you, and you're going to explain to us why it's the best choice, and we're going to support you. Right. And I was like taking him on this ascension ladder through this of like you owning yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing is that as an adult, you have to own yourself. You have to own your choices, own the fact that you chose to get married, own the fact that you're choosing to get divorced, own the fact that you chose to have an affair. And like, why did you have an affair? Why did you not feel you could just maybe tell your partner what was happening, or maybe you didn't know enough until you had a different experience. And then that changed your concept of what you wanted for yourself. And how can you humanize that?
Right.
And can you take care of everybody in the process?
Right.
Can you care for the people that you're hurting at the same time as knowing that staying with somebody that doesn't feel right is also painful?
Yeah. Yeah. And that it's okay to make that choice. Yeah, for sure. All of that. That's what I work with people on, this business of, is it okay for me to make a different choice, even though it will be disruptive for my life and other people's lives? Is it okay for me to be a different person than who I was 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago, whatever? Am I allowed to do something that other people are going to be upset with and also still maintain my unconditional positive self-regard for myself? Yeah.
And boy, that's hard.
Yeah.
Boy, is that hard. That is so hard, especially because so many of us grew up, being told our job was to please others.
Exactly.
And disconnected from our own intuition and how we care for ourselves.
Yep.
and sometimes the answer is, hey, I actually did have this affair, and I'm actually realizing I do want to stay in my relationship.
Right. For sure. For sure.
Sometimes that's the answer.
Yeah. For sure.
Or I looked at divorce and I looked at it really clearly and I realized, I'm kind of happy where I live.
Right.
You know, like I don't mean just the house. I mean like emotionally
With
where
my
I live.
life. Yes.
My
My
life.
life and my relationship. Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. I mean, for some people, affairs are just these clarifying experiences where it's like, wait, okay, that was really exciting. But what I really want is to reinvest in my marriage and rediscover my spouse or my partner. And that can be wonderful.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be the choice either. Let's go back to this thing of like, you know, like your kids hating you.
Your kids are going to hate you because you got them the wrong lunch.
Exactly.
Your kids are going to hate you literally all the time anyway.
Yeah.
And the gift, our job is to teach our kids, and I say that facetiously, but truly, like, too, you know? Like,
oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm being snarky, but the truth of the matter is your kids will hate you at some point, okay? Always. Like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's somebody. You can write me a note if your kids have never hated you, okay?
Right.
Seriously,
Right.
Abigail at motherflippingawesome.com. Write me a note and be like, my kids have never hated me. You're doing something terribly wrong, Abigail. And then I'll get depressed and think about it for a while and I'll decide, nah, I'm okay with it. But
what we should really do is pull all the children. If there's a child out there who has never hated their parents, you can email Abigail and tell her that. Right.
And then I want to interview you.
Right.
So, no, I mean, here's the deal, right? Like, it's okay. It's okay to hate people. It's okay to be mad.
Yeah.
And usually when we hate somebody, it's because we feel that our power's been taken away. So actually,
that's good.
hating somebody means you feel they're cornering you. So
How come I've never heard this before? This is so good. Say that again.
Well, if you hate somebody, it's because you feel that they're taking something away from you. And usually it's your own power, right? Like
Yeah.
you feel divested of your power. And therefore your hatred is that rage that's like almost like coming up to tell you, like, take it back, right?
Yeah.
And so this is the problem, is that we view that hatred and rage as a problem, but it's actually not. It's actually like a good reminder. It's a good marker for you that you're being crossed over a boundary. But the problem is you think like you can't do this is the answer.
Right.
As opposed to, oh, I don't have to give you my power in this. Like,
Right.
I can still have a great life. I can still be with my friends. I can still do all these things. And this is really very much what I deal with. So let me take a step back. Kids who are strong-willed and highly sensitive are always going to be they're the canaries in the coal mine, right? The other kids can go with the ebb and flow of life, but these kids are the kids that give you the work. All right.
Yeah.
And they're going to give you the work in the good times, and they're going to give you the work in the hard times. They're just going to be more work on any given day. Okay. Because they're the truth tellers. They're like the other kids are like, it's okay or not. Like, sure, that turkey sandwich was fine. It's fine. These kids are going to be like, that's not oven roasted and it's got a fake spice and I'm not eating it.
Yeah.
Right. Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh, yeah.
They're the canaries. Okay.
Yeah.
And so they're the ones that are going to tell you when there's pollution in the water. They tell you. And that's why they're so difficult for parents, because parents are like, can't you just let me slide, kid?
Mm-hmm. Right. I'm trying to do 8 million other things, by the way. Don't you fucking know that? And can you just shut up about the pollution in the water and the turkey sandwich?
Exactly. I'm dealing with like big life. I can't make this all perfect for you. And it's a combination of both beginning to understand that the kids are actually holding us up to a standard that is actually beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually helping us not pollute ourselves. They're helping us stay sentient and wise and rise up. That's number one. And the other piece of it is we have to help these kids build skills to deal with and by the way, on that ascension ladder that I created for my son, the top of the ascension ladder, I didn't say this before when I was telling you, but the very tippy top of the ascension ladder was, you will deal with things you haven't chosen, that neither did you choose them, nor are they good. And you will build the ability to someday transform them into good.
Yay.
And when you reach that level, I'm not expecting that of you as a child. You can wait till you're an adult if you'd like. But when you can do that, you will have reached your pinnacle. And
that's great.
That's the thing, right? Is that we need to get good at transforming difficulty into opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's growth mindset.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So if we can, and what do you need to go through divorce? You need growth mindset,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
That's not fixed. This is not the only way we're happy.
Yeah. Yeah. This is not the only way that life can be okay.
Yeah.
This is not the only way that we can have relationships with our kids. This is not the only way we can have good relationships with our kids.
Yeah. But a lot of stuff has to break
Yes.
to let that happen. You have to break all these core beliefs of your own and other people, and you have to build a moat around you to protect your family from heaps of judgment elsewhere. And then you have to build a beautiful permaculture garden inside that is keeping you sustained. And you have to build skill set ladders for your kids and for yourself, and new belief systems that allow you to understand you can thrive in this new culture.
Yes. Agree.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's work.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's totally work. I mean, that's what I always tell people, like, you know, when they have concerns like this, it's like, yes, all of this is reasonable. Yes, divorce is disruptive. Yes, it's a major life event. Yes, it will be difficult. And what's on the other side of that?
Yeah.
Do you want to stay where you are? Or do you want to go through the fire so that you can get to something else, something that you prefer, something that your soul is yearning for?
Absolutely. And here's the thing to remember, that's not going to be perfect either.
Right. Yes, very important.
And like, you have to, that doesn't mean it won't be better, right? It might be better. It might not. Like, you have to start taking some really good hard looks at yourself. Are you the kind of person that just always thinks something's better?
Right.
Do you not have the ability to make things better? Or is this truly not great?
Right.
So
absolutely.
That.
Absolutely.
And by the way, all of this work, if some of you guys are listening and you're like, oh my God, I'm tired, I got to take a nap. Like, this is why you go to Marie. Okay.
Exactly.
This is why you go to Marie, because Marie can hold you in a framework and help you piece out these things little by little. Because if you try to do all of this all at once,
it's impossible.
Your brain will go to mush and you'll just hide in your life under a blanket, eating Oreos and watching old Real Housewives.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, definitely.
You can't. Okay.
Definitely.
And this is why parents come to me when they can't do that, because it's a lot to build this new framework, but it is buildable. And once you have it, you're like, amazing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes to all of that. So many yeses.
Yeah. But you don't have to do this on your own, guys. You really don't.
Right. You don't have to do it on your own, and you can't do it all at once, and getting defeated because you can't do it all at once is totally counterproductive.
Yes. You just have to like hold yourself accountable with somebody you trust and do one step of it each day, one at a time. And then you'll move through and you'll be like, oh my God, I walked miles. Who knew?
Right. I walked miles. Who knew? I became a different version of myself that I feel so much better in. Like, my kids have survived. My family may be different, but it's okay. And maybe even better than it ever was before, in a strange sort of way.
Totally.
All right. Let's talk about fear number 3. And generally speaking, this is, if I get divorced, my relationship with my kids will change for the worse. And sometimes the fear is that the kids will prefer to spend more time with the other parent, maybe because they like the other parent better, or because the other parent will have more money and therefore they'll be able to, you know, provide a cooler experience for the kid, like have a nicer house for the kid, take them on more exciting vacations or something like that. And sometimes the fear is, you know, I'll spend less time with my kids. I won't wake up in the same house with them every morning. And I don't know how to counter that terror. And I work with people on countering all sorts of terrors, but let's talk about this specifically in terms of the parent-child relationship.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's my wheelhouse, is how do we build that relationship, right? How do we build a relationship where a child is going to trust you in the good times and the bad, and where the rafts stay tight together as they go through the water. Yeah. Through the rapids. How do you do that? And there's no quick, easy answer for that, but I will say a few things. You know, I often think that the first step in finding an answer is blowing up the bad answer. So
I like that. Say more.
Right? So if you take a look at this, there's some bad answers in this question.
Yeah.
If I get divorced, my relationship with my kids will change for the worse. Well, That's not necessarily true.
Right.
Okay. And if we think it's true,
Right.
we have a problem.
Yes.
Okay. Sometimes a kid may prefer to spend more time with another parent. That's true. That can
It could happen. Right.
If that happens, does that mean it's because of the divorce? Or does that mean it's because you didn't have that relationship with that child in the first place? Maybe this is a beautiful get honest moment to go, you know what? Like, the only reason I have this relationship is because like I'm coming home every night, but not because I'm doing something with this child, not because I'm building this relationship.
Yeah.
Children want a relationship with the grownups in their life. They really deeply want it.
Yeah.
And if it's not happening, it's actually, I believe, our adult responsibility to figure out why. And are we not playing enough? Are we not listening enough? Are we too concerned? Are we bringing too much of our own like demands or fears of what happened to other people in our life, and we're bringing it to our child? You will not become, like, I swear, I feel sometimes like people are looking at their 3-year-old toddler like, you will not become a mansplainer,
right.
And it's like, okay, he's 3 and he's just trying to get his like shovel, it's just we can't hold him accountable for all the shitty shit that tons of other men have done before, which granted has happened, but he's probably not mansplaining at 3. Do you know what I mean? And but it's real. I'm not,
I get it.
Fun.
Yeah.
But like, especially if you're divorcing your husband because he does do that, and then you see that behavior in your kid, you're like, I will stamp this out. No other woman going forward will ever have to deal with this because this has ruined my marriage.
Yeah.
And you like bring that to your child.
Yeah.
But actually, it's not what's happening.
Right. Right. Okay? Totally.
You're bringing it to the party.
Totally.
And that's a really hard thing to hear. So I say that with a deep amount of love, but it's really important for us to get really honest about, right? It's like, are we parenting from a place of love and belief in our kids and showing them and teaching them and discipline through teaching, right? Like, I'm going to give you the discipline to have a good life, not I'm going to discipline you.
Right.
How can I make sure that you are becoming someone who hears other people? How can I make sure you are feeling cared for, my child? How can we build a life? Listen, kids wanting money, like, no, they may say that. And there are kids who say that.
Yeah.
They don't mean it, my friend. There's and I know there's parents going, oh, no, they mean it.
Yeah.
So there are some kids who very quickly learn money is power. And there are some kids who really like power, so they like money. But there are other ways for you to give them that power.
Yeah.
They're only liking money because money has been equated to power.
Yeah.
Power can come from learning how to climb a rock wall, which can be free.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Like, there are so many ways you get power. And so understanding what's underneath, like what's the real need that needs to be met, not the need as it's being presented, but the real need. And that's why I say you got to break the bad ideas to get to the good ideas.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. And I find, and this is true of kids and adults, that, when we're searching for financial wealth, what we usually really want is emotional wealth. And of course, the two can go together. Of course, you can have both. But usually when we're like kind of like craving money or the things money can get us, it's because we're missing something that has nothing to do with money.
Yeah. Safety, abundance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Abundance doesn't necessarily have a dollar value associated with it or a monetary value associated with it.
Yeah. I think that is true. And I have nothing against money.
Right.
Money can
Seriously.
be great.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
It really can. And I think the more people that have money that use it responsibly, the better this world. So I'm not, saying we shouldn't care about it or want it or that it doesn't play real parts. If you've got a family where one member of the family really doesn't have enough money to feed their kids, this is an issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's an issue that hopefully the court's going to deal with. But if the court doesn't step in, what else can we do? How can we teach our child? Like, maybe there are other things we could do for other people where we can serve and they can share dinner with us. And what can we do? How can we change our situation as much as possible, right? Instead of just blame and like fighting. Because we put so much energy into fighting what's causing our problem and so little energy usually into solving our actual problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So true.
And if you can get clear about the problem, like the real problem, you can solve it faster.
Yep. Totally agree. And that requires us to be willing to put down our swords and to look at things from a neutral perspective instead of a, judgmental, hateful, resentful perspective.
Yeah, because your judgment, it doesn't just keep the other person in a box, it keeps you in a box.
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes away your power.
Yeah.
It really does. That's why I love your work, Marie.
Thanks, Abigail.
You are doing such important work. You are allowing people to move beyond the noise they hear outside, allowing people to move beyond the noise they hear inside, the things they've internalized, and to stop, blame is the opposite of power. It feels like power. It's like money. It feels like power, but it's not power.
Right.
And when you are able to, if you're lucky enough to work with Marie, or if you don't, have access to Marie for any reason, which I don't know why you wouldn't, because anybody should be able to, right? You're online. But if you don't have that ability to do something like that, right, for yourself, then turn inwards and figure out if you can start asking yourself, what are the things I just completely assume are true? Mm-hmm. And is there any way that that's not true?
Yeah.
Just start there. Just start. And I'd like to do a little exercise. I'll give you guys a quick little thing I do with parents when they come to work with me. One of the very first exercises I give them is, what are your core beliefs about parenting and about each and every single person in your family? Like, this is my lazy kid. This is, our parenting is hard, or, I'm doing something different from my parents, or, I work harder with the kids than my husband, or my husband is better at this, or, my wife is better at this, like whatever it is,
Yep.
And I ask them to lay down every single judgment, including the positive ones. This kid's really great at sharing. This kid always listens. Like all of those, because those keep people in a box too, by the way.
Yes.
And I say, now every single one of them, I want you to flip it to the exact opposite. Write the exact opposite down, and pick one every day. And for the next however many days, spend a day looking at the exact opposite thing. Okay. Mm-hmm. So like if I think this kid always shares, I want you to spend 24 hours looking for the times this kid does not want to share. And if you literally find 0, go, interesting. For 24 hours, this kid truly did always want to share.
Right.
And we're still going to bound it.
Right.
But we're going to go, okay. But 9 times out of 10, you will find that the absolute opposite exists just as much as what you thought.
Yes.
You were only looking at one side of it.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love this.
Then the next step is I tell them, which reality do you want to actually believe?
Yeah.
Which one will give you a happier life?
Yeah. What do you want to focus on?
That one.
Yeah.
And then look for it.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yep.
Right?
Agree. Our focus is perhaps, our top superpower.
Yes. Yes. And that brings us back to, if you're going to divorce, you divorce well. Mm-hmm. If you're going to stay married well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure. Oh, for sure. I mean, that could be like a whole conversation in and of itself. But let me bring us back to this question of, and this is so poignant, right? Like going from a situation where you go to bed in the same home as your children every night and wake up in the same home with your children every day, and being terrified of that not being your reality anymore. What's your take on that?
Oh, my friend, I help so many families through this.
Yeah.
So I will say, number one, you might be surprised at how joyous it is to have a little time alone. Okay. And I know that sounds heretical, but you might
I love
be
it.
surprised.
Yeah, I love it. And frankly, let me just say this, like the parents I know who split time with their other parent and the kid goes between houses, they say they're a better parent because they have some time alone.
Yeah. And you will figure out how you use your time. And instead of being half present all the time, you will be like present for yourself half the time and present for them half the time. And it can actually be beneficial. Secondly, I will say that the real difficulty is that you won't be able to be in charge at all of what's happening in the other home.
Right.
And that's really one of the biggest fears, is that, like, as much as you may think your partner doesn't listen to you now about parenting, and very often that's one of the reasons for divorce, like, once you're separated, there's literally no reason for them to listen, and there's more reason for them to not listen.
Yeah.
So as much as you might think getting divorced answers that question, it actually tends to elevate that problem. And so that's why I always say, listen, you are never getting divorced from the other parent.
Yeah.
Even if you divorce, you are married forever in your parenting.
Yeah.
Even if you're going to parent on totally separate tracks.
Yeah.
You're still parenting the same child.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, some parents wind up having to do cleanup duty, where, like, when you're at this person's house, you get to do all these things. When you come here, I teach you boundaries. And that can be really painful, because it's like, I don't want to have to be the boundary only person, but this person never does boundaries. So in order to give my child a balanced life, I'm now going to have to be the boundary only parent.
Right.
And that's the sacrifice I make for my kid.
Right.
In which case, sometimes there might be some truth to that, but we still have to build fun in for you too, because otherwise that is just a recipe for serious resentment. And it doesn't teach good boundaries, because we're teaching boundaries surrounded by anger, which makes a kid actually shy away from boundaries.
Yes.
So you will spend your entire life sacrificing yourself to teach your kid boundaries, thinking somebody should thank you at the end of the day. And in fact, they don't. And that's really bad.
Right.
So we've got to get really, really clear about every move we make. And again, that's why I say, like, these situations, these kinds of kids, whether, when I'm talking about strong-willed, highly sensitive kids, or a situation that is a highly sensitive, highly charged situation, all of these things are here to bring us closer to our truth. I like to put it this way. You're driving 30 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour. It's okay if you, like, wiggle the wheel a little bit. It's okay if you press the brake a little lazily. Like, you don't have to be perfect.
Right.
But when you're driving 120 miles around a curve, you better get that right.
Right. Right.
And going through a divorce, that's 120 miles around a curve. So you want to know what you're doing, and you want to have people in your court that you can play out these situations beforehand, before introducing them into your family. So you're coming in as clean and as well thought out as possible, because you're going 120 miles around a curve right now at this point in your life.
Yeah. 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 I like that. I mean, I like that this, I think so often we fixate on what other people might be experiencing and how our actions may impact other people. And that serves to distract us from taking responsibility from what we're actually thinking, and how our beliefs generate our feelings, which then contribute to our actions or inactions. And we don't focus on that stuff enough. And what I always suggest is that when we can learn how to take more responsibility for what we have the power to control, everything works out so much better.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's perfect.
Less problems. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, again, that's why it's so valuable to, maybe think of this time, if you are going through this, infidelity or divorce, or wondering about it, think of this as a time where you need great self-care. Don't be beating yourself up. Like, I've put my family in this position. How could I ask for more help? Like, no, you better get that help.
Yes.
Like, you need more self-care right now, because every which way you turn does matter and does have an effect. It doesn't mean you can't make mistakes. You're going to make mistakes, but you want to know how to clean them up as fast as possible. You want to know how to introduce as little poison as possible into the water. You want to know how to keep things clean, right?
Yeah.
It's not so much the getting divorced or staying married that keeps it clean. It's the how you do it.
Yep.
So you need care to do it well, right?
Yeah. Agree. Oh my God. Agree. That's probably a good note to end on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me for this intense conversation.
Yeah, this was so good. Can you remind everyone where to find you, Abigail?
Absolutely. So one of the easiest places you can find me is on your phone. Go get the Mother Flipping Awesome app. Just download it. I have a private podcast there where I share my thoughts about parenting my kids and also the parents that I work with in my mentorship program. I work very, very deeply with parents going on a 6-month journey to really own their story in parenthood and to help get really clean and to raise kids that have high skill sets for owning their story. So that's my jam. If you're interested in the mentorship program, you can head over to motherflippingawesome.com and click on the mentorship program. But a great way to get started is the app.
Great. Thanks again, Abigail, for joining me today. And to everyone who's listening, if you want to learn more about me and my work or begin the process of working together, head on over to mariemurphyphd.com. And if you've enjoyed what you've heard today, I hope you'll rate and review the show on iTunes. Thanks for listening, everyone, and bye for now.
Thanks for listening to Your Secret is Safe with Me with Dr. Marie Murphy. Make sure to click subscribe to get updates on our latest episodes.